Max Verstappen, Red Bull boss reveals what Daniel Ricciardo relationship was really like, that is according to team principal Christian Horner, who insists Red Bull never had concerns over Ricciardo's competitiveness. And Ricciardo raced as teammates for 3 seasons but competed alongside one another for the final time 11 days ago. Ricciardo is on his way to Renault over the winter, and question marks have been raised over whether Verstappen had influenced his decision to move. However, Red Bull boss Horner insists the duo shared a positive relationship over the past 2.5 years. There was a momentum and respect between the two that meant they kept pushing each other to the limit, Horner told German outlet. It has been an honor to have Ricciardo on the team for the past 5 years. We never worried about Daniel's pace. Now he is one of the best drivers in the field when it comes to overtaking maneuvers. He has produced fantastic races. His personality was also a perfect match for our brand. Horner's comments contrast to those of former GP2 champion Davide Valsecchi, who is friends with Daniel. Does not want to be a second driver at Red Bull, Valsecchi said in October. It is clear that Verstappen is preferred within the team. From the moment that Max joined Red Bull in Spain, I realized that Daniel was. Max jumped into a car unknown to him and was in the qualification immediately right behind Daniel, more or less equal. You recognized Max's talent immediately. And that's bigger than my friends. I knew Daniel would go under. Max is better. I understand why he received double or triple the salary of Dan. Max is extreme in everything. Extremely young, extremely good and extremely confident. Verstappen and Ricciardo will go head-to-head when the Australian Grand Prix kicks off the 2019 season next March. Next news. F1 news. Daniel Ricciardo can challenge Mercedes and Red Bull with Renault in 2019. There is no reason Daniel Ricciardo can't be challenging for poles and podiums with Renault next season, according to his new boss, who believes their engine will be on par with Mercedes and Ferrari next year. Ricciardo's move to Renault, who finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship last year, from Red Bull was expected to signal the last time we would see a shoey on the podium for at least the next 2 years, given their lack of competitiveness in comparison to the top teams. Even Ricciardo himself has hinted that he is expecting 2020 to be more of a podium challenging year than 2019, but he will be in for a pleasant surprise when he walks through the door of their Instone base, according to Managing Director Cyril Abiteboul. We're missing about 15 to 20 kilowatts of engine power, 20-27 bhp, in the race, which under certain conditions could be made up for by the Red Bull chassis, Abiteboul told Automotor and Sport. In qualifying we estimate our deficit at 40 kilowatts, 53 bhp, and that's significant. With a customer engine from Mercedes or Ferrari we would have qualified in 7th place in Abu Dhabi. This shows that we have a better chassis than our midfield competitors, but also shows we are not as good as the 3 top teams. That's why the main focus at first is on engine development. Next year, I don't want to have to say anymore that we lack too much power in qualifying. There's no reason why we shouldn't close the gap to Mercedes and Ferrari with the engine over the winter. With the chassis it will take a little longer. The Aussie has been driving Renault power for the last 5 years at Red Bull before the split at the end of the 2018 season, as the Milton Keynes outfit switches to Honda engines. Red Bull have been very vocal about how much better they will be with their engines, despite Renault outperforming the only team using them last season, Toro Rosso. Abiteboul was keen to point this out as the fallout from Renault's very public divorce from Red Bull continues. "It's hard for me today to set targets for next year," Abitable said. "In sport, that always depends a bit on the performance of the others. But if the curve points upwards like ours, you want this trend to continue." "Maybe we won't be able to do that in terms of the World Championship position, but we want to reduce the gap to the top. Let's wait and see what happens with Red Bull and Honda. Red Bull never gets tired of telling how good Honda is compared to us. May I say that Toro Rosso, Red Bull's sister team who already use Honda engines, is still behind us?" Next news, F1 news. Daniel Ricciardo's warning from new Renault teammate Nico Hulkenberg ahead of 2019 season. Nico Hulkenberg has admitted he must find another gear if he is going to beat new Renault teammate Daniel Ricciardo next season, but had some strong words of fight for the Australian. The German has predominantly been a driver lost in the midfield pack for most of his career, but was the best of the rest in 2018. Finishing top of the Drivers' Championship when you remove the Big Six contenders. However, next year we'll see one of those Big Six driving alongside him in the Renault overalls after Ricciardo's shock decision to leave Red Bull. Hulkenberg has already stated that he will not shirk the challenge Ricciardo presents him as he looks to prove himself as a driver capable of driving for a top team. "Bring it on, we all cook with water, I'm not scared of anyone," said Hulkenberg about facing Ricciardo next year. "Probably it will be very challenging and I might have to find another gear, but let's see what happens." Hulkenberg has a good record when it comes to outscoring his teammates, having done the same with McLaren's new recruit Carlos Sainz. And despite being happy with his efforts last season, Hulkenberg insists his main focus is the progression of the team, rather than just himself. "I guess it's always important people, outsiders, look at that teammate comparison more," he said. People inside the team, they know more obviously about what's really going on. But, yeah, it's good, I'm happy. It's much more important that the team and the car progression happens. Next news, F1 news. Daniel Ricciardo wants to know who vetoed Ferrari move before Renault agreement. Daniel Ricciardo has revealed his move to Ferrari fell through because someone said no to his arrival from Red Bull, leaving him to move to Renault instead. The Australian was on the market mid-season after turning down a new deal with Red Bull and eventually ended up at Renault despite many expecting his arrival in Maranello. The move would have made sense, given Ricciardo's Italian heritage, there being a seat available with Kimi Räikkönen's departure and Ferrari being a team who could match the 29-year-old's world title aspirations. But it never materialized, and while there was speculation he asked for too much money, Ricciardo has now revealed that an unnamed person within the team vetoed his arrival. "I can't say why," he told Automoto when asked if he wanted too much money. "I don't know what you're talking about. Who said I'd asked for too much money? Evidently someone said no when I arrived. Who? I'd like to know, but maybe I have an idea." And while Ricciardo did not give a name to his suspect, he may be referring Sebastian Vettel, who is currently the #1 driver at Ferrari, having left Red Bull a season after the Aussie arrived, and outperformed him, thus upsetting the apple cart. Instead of Ricciardo in the red overalls next season, it will be Charles Leclerc, who, despite being one of the most exciting young drivers in the sport, will still present less of an immediate challenge to Vettel's status at Ferrari. However, it's more likely it was Sergio Marchand, who was pushing for Leclerc's promotion to Ferrari before his death earlier this year and reportedly even brokered the deal while he was still CEO. When pushed further on why his move to Ferrari broke down, Ricciardo was unsure, but hinted the door was open for him to move there in the future should he decide not to extend his stay at Renault longer than the initial 2-year deal. Good question, he added. Maybe it's better if you ask them. I talked and discussed, but you see that they had already made arrangements with Leclerc, so mine fell through. That works well and good luck to them as far as I'm concerned. I hope to still have some time in F1 and who knows that in the future there are not opportunities to meet again. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to share and subscribe to your channel to get the latest sports news around the world. Wished health and success. Goodbye.